Hey there, it's Mika again from Unipod Rising. There is a question that I'm getting pretty consistently, and so I wanted to take a few minutes to answer it for the collective, whoever might be following these videos and following my journey this way. So the question is, how long is it going to be before you get your prosthetic? And the answer isn't simple, right? It's a little bit convoluted because it's going to kind of be a back and forth, and it's going to happen in stages. And here's what I mean by that. Right now we're working on getting a good fit in what's considered a test socket. And on Monday I'm going to be going in to my prosthetist, and I'm not sure if Kirk will need to make any other changes because this past week we made not too many changes to the socket itself. He's pretty well refined where we are, so that has been really good. Yeah, we're in a good place with that. And then we've made quite a few. When I say we, I'm not doing anything other than communicating what I feel, and then he goes and makes the changes accordingly. Or he sees something in my gait, in the way that I'm walking, that causes him to say, let me, whatever, to make some shifts. And so we had a really, really good alignment the last time I went, which was Thursday afternoon. The best it's felt at all. And I took some steps where I felt really comfortable and confident getting over the prosthetic. And that in itself is kind of a process, because it's hard to trust this piece of machinery. Walking on a prosthetic is not like walking on your natural leg. And when it's new, it's particularly disconcerting, right? You can't feel your step in the way you feel it in your natural leg. Also, it's been a really long time since I've walked, like a really long time. So it's going to take a little while for my body to get acclimated. There are several challenges. I've got all kinds of injuries that are bothered. And I've got muscles that haven't worked in the way that they need to work for walking in 17 years, right? And so it's a process, and it's not a quick one, because every piece of it takes time on its own. There's also the two primary factors for getting the prosthetic fit and the alignment set are the volume of my residual leg, which I call my legling. When you have an amputation, what's left of your limb, if it's not contained in a compression sock or a socket, which is what you use for the prosthetic, if it's not contained, it will retain water. And since I'm not firing the muscles the way, almost at all, really, to be honest, I move my leg and whatever, but it's not anywhere near what you do when you walk. And so the fluid doesn't get pushed out of the residual. It just kind of hangs out, especially when you're talking about a leg. It's below you, so gravity kind of forces, pull. How do I even say this? Because of gravity, there's retention, and because of the lack of use of the musculature, the muscles aren't pumping that back out, right? The fluid's not moving. So it just kind of settles. So the more the leg is contained, and the more that I use the muscles, the more the fluid is, the more it dissipates, the more it kind of is pushed out of the leg, and the volume of the residual limb goes down. So in other words, my leg shrinks, my legling shrinks. And so every time there's a change in volume, you have to address that. And it's not as simple as just say, okay, let's make the socket smaller. Each change has to be done with all the alignments and all of the man, I wish Kirk was explaining this, because that'd be so much better. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll have him explain this stuff. But essentially, it's going to be a while, and the process of making the changes to the socket isn't as simple as like just shrink what exists, because there's a lot of math to it, and it's also an art form, and so the combination, the way it comes together, you can't just shrink the whole thing. You have to make the changes in accordance with what's best for the overall physiology. I bet that doesn't make any sense, so feel free to ask questions, and I might have Kirk answer them. So there's the volume issue, and there's also what's called flexion in my hip. And what that means is essentially this. I'm seated at all times. Not all times, but for the most part I'm seated, and I've been seated for the vast majority of the last 17 years. And so when you sit, the muscles and ligaments in your hip, I'm like gonna stand up here. I don't know if you can see. So here's my hip, right? And can you tell? So my leg is bent. Everything here inside the hip, right, and through here is shortened. And so when you stand on two legs, you get a stretch, right? As your leg is straight, you have a stretch in that hip that I don't have because I'm sitting all the time. So for you two-legged people who walk, or you people who walk on prosthetics, whatever, for those of you who are walking, let's do this. Let's say this is your torso, and this is your leg. When you take a step, there's a bend in your hip to step forward, and as you go through the step, right, the next foot comes forward and this leg goes back, you have a stretch in your hip here. So imagine I've been here for the most part. So even to get to here is a challenge. My leg sits a little bit forward like this at this point when I stand up. So it's going to be a while before I stretch to get to here as the normal kind of starting point. And it's going to take even more work to get everything loosened up to where I have a good range of motion on the back end. So the length of my stride will change over time, and the level of comfort and ease in even just standing is going to improve. So there's the volume of the leg that needs to be addressed in socket fit. There's the flexion that needs to be addressed, not just in the way that the socket is made and positioned, but also the way that the prosthetic is attached to it. So in this space and time, if you have seen the previous video where I showed that I walk, you can see that the thigh is set in a kind of a bent position. I never fully kind of get that straightening because I just don't have the range of motion in my hip. So that'll take some time to resolve. So Kirk's going to be chasing the volume changes for a while. He's going to be having to adjust not just the socket, but also the alignment of the socket on the prosthetic and the prosthetic alignment itself. So there are a lot of details, and I really think I'm going to do a video with Kirk, if he'll do it with me, and let him explain this a little bit to you guys, because for those of you who are interested in physiology or science, or just interested in it because you're interested in my journey, I think it would be really interesting. So on Thursday, which was the last time I saw Kirk, he made those changes. Things were great. I felt as comfortable as I have felt ever on the prosthetic. And that includes like all my attempts in the beginning. And so it's a pretty huge deal. I'm so excited. So because we are where we are, on Tuesday this coming week, I'm going to go for my first official gait training with a woman by the name of Alicia, who is considered one of the best in the nation, like maybe even beyond, when it comes to gait training for amputees. There's one guy who is said to be the top guy, and she's trained under him. So, you know, says a lot right there. But it seems from everything I've heard that she's not only a student of his, she's the top student of his. So it's really, really exciting because she breaks things down, and I'm talking about it from what other people have told me, right? I haven't had any experience with her as yet, but from what everyone's told me, she breaks things down in a way where she understands the nuances of the movement, and she can see when something is out of alignment and tell you to activate a certain muscle or muscle group, to whatever. She can tell me how to make little changes that are going to make a huge difference. And I'm particularly excited because that's how my brain's always functioned, and with my previous dance training, it's something I'm really accustomed to. It's a really, really, really good way for me to learn movement. And so I think she's going to really make a big difference in the timeline of it all. She's going to make it so that we deal with the flexion more quickly, and that I get my balance and my confidence in the whole thing more quickly. And I say confidence because it really is, like I said before, it really is strange to walk on a prosthetic in comparison to walking on a sound leg. And so let me share this with you. Only my sister, my friend Maggie, and maybe one or two other people have ever seen this, because I spent so little time on a prosthetic the first time that my family even didn't get to see it more than a time or two. But the way that things were set up before in the prosthetic I was using 17 years ago, it was not good. And if I if I didn't get quite in the right position over the prosthetic as I stepped forward, the leg would like snap like shut, and in the action of doing that, like it would always do it as I was getting over the prosthetic. And so the leg would snap shut, and it would basically, like, I'd be standing and walking through, and then all of a sudden you just see me go whoosh, like seriously, like bam, like onto the floor. It was so fast, it looked like, what are those, I can't think of what it's called all of a sudden. It's not a hard thing, you know what I'm talking about. Like it's got a band and you stretch it and then it releases. Oh my god, why can't I think of it? You know what I'm talking about. So it would just snap me to the ground, and when you hit the ground onto the prosthetic knee, the socket goes like all the way up, like it gets kind of personal. It was very unpleasant, and so I think part of my nerves are that I don't want to have that experience again, but honestly I haven't even come close to that on this other prosthetic. So that's just a matter of training an old fear out of your body, I guess, is the best way to put it. So Monday I will pick up the prosthetic. Tuesday I will go to New Braunfels to work with Alicia. Wednesday I'll probably call Kirk, or maybe even Tuesday, because I'm going in the morning. But after my gait training session, I'll call Kirk, let him know how it goes, let him know if there were any changes. And I don't know if we'll have to make adjustments to the socket or anything after that session of walking, but it's certainly possible because I'm really kind of at the edge of fit with my liner too. So we'll see. So if we have to make changes, I may or may not get to go to the New Braunfels gait training on Thursday morning. But whatever happens, happens. I'm just going with the flow, man. So as much as I want to be able to give people a timeline, the closest thing anybody's given me to a timeline is one that I don't accept. And that is this. There's a gentleman at the pool who has an equation. He's done training with swimmers and things like that, and he's had to deal with injuries himself and other people's injuries and things like that. And so there's some kind of equation that is, I guess, fairly commonly used to establish how long it's going to take for the recovery based on the amount of time that you've been kind of out of commission. And his math said that it could be 5 years. And I say, no, we're not doing that. No. I say, in order to get fully stabilized to where I'm using the prosthetic day in and day out, like get up in the morning, put it on, use it throughout the day, I'm figuring 2 years. That's what I'm figuring. Maybe I'll do it faster though. In the end, as much as we all like to have timelines, because everybody wants to know how long is it going to take from point A to get from point A to point B. And generally speaking, I'd be the same. And I've asked the question several times, but there's really no answer because everybody's individual. The process is so different for everybody. And it's especially different because in my case, I've spent so long in a wheelchair that it's going to take my body whatever time it takes to adjust. And I can't, it isn't just as simple as I've been sitting. It's also, I have many injuries that will be bothered and inflamed by the process of getting up and moving again and walking and using muscles that I haven't used in the way that it takes to walk in a very, very long time. And so in the end, as much as I thought that I would be bothered by not having a timeline, I'm really not, because I'm so busy being grateful and excited and looking forward to the changes that this is going to allow me. There are places I haven't been able to hike. There are places that I've gone where the wheelchair access like takes you around back. So like the Botanical Gardens in San Antonio, for example, there's this really awesome like space where you go from one part of the garden to another part. And they have like it's like a step up. I don't remember if it's multiple steps. It's a couple of steps up, I think. And then you walk through this like ivy covered over, I have no words today. I don't know what's going on, but it's beautiful. It's stunning. And I remember several years ago when I went and everybody kind of was walking through, and I realized I was going to have to take a ramp that was off to the side. And that ramp was like, you went behind these like bushes, and then you saw like the inner working, so to speak, like big hunks of metal equipment, and like it wasn't pretty like the little steps were. And I was honestly really upset. I actually needed to take a moment to myself because I felt like I had lost so many things, and that moment, and I love those moments, right? And so not getting to like walk through and hearing all my friends and all people I didn't know like coming through and, oh, this is so beautiful and all that. I was really bummed out that I didn't get to have that experience. I felt cheated. And so I'm really excited to walk through those entryways. I'm really excited to get up and go to the kitchen and get a drink. I'm excited to do basic everyday things. That I'm excited to be out with people and standing and be at eye level. Well, I mean, I'm 5'2", so maybe not eye level, but like normal human conversation level. There's so many little nuances, so many things that are so different in a chair. And I really would love to get back to standing and walking and getting around and not having to worry about whether there's access for a wheelchair in a particular restaurant or trail or whatever. So there's so much awesome stuff coming up, and I'm really, really busy thinking about those things. And so the timeline will be whatever the timeline will be, and the challenges will be whatever they are, and we'll work through them one by one. And I have no reason to be unhappy. I have no reason to be anything but grateful and thrilled and excited. So I am. Those are the things I am. And whatever will be, and I'm excited to share it all with you guys. So thanks again for those of you who are kind of following my story. Thanks so much to all you wonderful people who have sent me all kinds of messages, just supporting and loving and encouraging me. I've had some beautiful conversations with people, and I'm really, really grateful for all of you. If you have questions, as always, feel free to leave a comment with any questions, or if you've got anything to say. Yeah, comments are great. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel and you'd like to continue to follow my journey, then please subscribe. You can also click on the little bell and it will send you notifications when I do upload any new videos. That's it. I appreciate all of your love and support. I appreciate all the support for the channel, and I look forward to the next time we chat. Toodles!